Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. Reddit. Have you ever fired someone and had them go completely crazy? Part 4. I oversaw a small team of incredibly committed employees as their team leader. However, one of them was simply not on board and didn't realize that everyone had a very good chance of moving up. Many people used the experience they gained processing medical claims for United Health Group to increase their income by double at UHG. You could also work small menial tasks to gain entry into the company and eventually become a leader like me. She was claiming a disability that she clearly did not have, and we had no choice but to let her go because she would not provide medical records to support her claims. She would not put in the necessary hours of work, which led to a write-up. We eventually had to issue a statement stating that since we were handling live claims and the client had received claims with soda and crumbs all over them, nobody was permitted to have drinks or snacks at their desks. This was ridiculous. This one woman would eat and do very little work all day long. We made the decision that everyone would have their policies and procedures out on their desks the following Monday and we would conduct a search. This woman did not, of course, have hers out. She continued, "It's somewhere in my desk. I just didn't have time to go through it." I questioned her about what she was doing that was more crucial than following my instructions as her team leader. She was at a loss for words. Knowing that we would unearth a ton of forbidden snacks, we searched through her desk in front of everyone to locate the paperwork. We unearthed 18 M&M bags, the big bags, not the typical gas station size bags. 4 3-liter Pepsi bottles were also discovered. We informed her that we would leave them in the break room for her, but we had to seize them. With a yell of, "My tugger, my tugger!" she pursued us. She pronounced all of her S's as T's. She claimed she had low blood sugar, which is why she needed her tugger, despite the fact that she was easily 500 pounds and extremely lazy. "Well, your candies will be here when the day's over, but when you clock out, I'm gonna have to ask you to take them home and leave them there." After giving her okay, she went to the break room and sat down. "Mary, it's time to go to work. We have a lot to do today." Her answer, "Well, my candies might be taken by someone. I have to watch over here to make sure they don't get taken." After bringing her into the office, we fired her right away. We said we would bring her candy as we walked her out the door. We declined her request to simply go get them on her own. People have stormed through the office destroying claims after being fired. So she went outside to wait. I arranged 18 large bags of M&Ms in a very large salad bowl. Everyone had a great time during break. That bowl didn't seem to last much longer than that workday. The soda was moved to the refrigerator, nobody touched it. I think she called to find out where her belongings were, and I think my gorgeous secretary hung up on her. The worker we'll call A had trouble. A was late because her cell phone clock was slow. It fixed itself when she got home. Traffic was bad. She lived across the street. Her car wouldn't start. She didn't have a car. And my favorite, I had an anaphylactic shock from my phone when I got home and had to go to the ER and was there for like an hour. They had to give me an IV and everything. The last one is my favorite because she didn't know what anaphylactic shock was. She thought it meant being shocked, and I think she was all better in an hour. The closest emergency room was 25 minutes away, with an IV that healed on its own in 30 minutes. She was 45 minutes late. This girl was a junior and said she was going to Stanford after high school. So we've set up a fundraiser with the elementary school. Keep in mind that this is supposed to be a $10,000 night. A lot for this little shop. Everyone has a time slot, and I have a board with ranks for who gets to go home first if things slow down. In order to make it a little funnier, I've also agreed to dress up as Halloween, it's January, if the store makes more than $7,000. My schedule is no longer on the board. They'll never know when I'll be there because I do this. It was a huge night. A walks in 30 minutes into her shift. I was getting ice cream when I heard someone yell, "Run! Get up quickly, it's morning!" When I walk up to her, she comes out of the bathroom and walks over to the register to sign in. They know I take the clock-in keyboard key off to clean it because I do it all the time. Then I ask her what Oscar speech she has ready for being late. She said she didn't know she had an appointment. I told her she wasn't good enough and to go home. Tonight, she doesn't have to work. She had a temper tantrum and stomps her feet and mumbles the whole way to the door. That night, I had to make her schedule for the next week at home. I gave her 3 hours a day for 3 days. I had a rule that if you don't show up for work, I'd find someone else to do it. I get it signed off by the AD and then fax it to the store. The next afternoon, I get a call from A. She's being rude and angry because her hours were cut. I told her that she needs to be on time for the next 2 weeks if she wants her 20 hours back. She screams at me that her parents are going to buy the store and fire me. I tell her good. It only cost her parents $120,000 to find her a job that pays $80 a week. It was rude, but after 8 months, I finally broke. So, the next month, my husband and I are going on our planned vacation to the Caribbean. Since I couldn't use my phone, when we got to Miami, I got a message from the AD. A's uncle, her parents, and her grandparents opened a store and fired me. I called her back and she was mad that they didn't want to call and tell me themselves. Instead, they were waiting for me to get there to make a big deal out of it with A. She did not want me to go there, but she made me an offer. AD still needs to keep an eye on the franchises for a while to make sure they follow quality standards. In the contract, the person who bought it originally said he could get it back if they didn't meet quality standards for 2 years. To make sure they did this, AD would randomly check in on them every month. To make fun of me one last time, she offered me a job as an AD to watch over their store. I didn't take the job because it would have taken me an hour to get to work every day, and I wanted to find a job closer to home. It was my job to help with systems at a big IT company. Our team was the best I've ever worked with. Our manager was great, and I was in charge of the team. To be honest, everyone on the team would do anything for this guy. I'd get down on my knees and cross the I-95 for him. While I was away, our manager was moved to a different team, and we had a new manager when I got back. The new manager split the team in half right away, hired 2 new managers, and put someone in charge. These people also gave the team a new way to take on customer work. They wouldn't listen to my pleas that they were missing important details and that things were doomed to fail. They even tried to move me up on the team to make their S-plan work, but it was just an offer of a 0% raise. I told them to stop. I then called a meeting with all the folks on my team and told them that going forward I expected them to follow the new work rules to the effing letter. That didn't matter to me. What was going to happen did. No matter what, we were to do what they said. It took about 2 months for things to go bad. Failures to make changes, missing security patches, and customers screaming, "Holy FH!" Soon after I accepted a new job at the company, I was asked to go to a meeting with one of the directors. When someone asked me what was going on, I told them everything, including the bloody details. After a month, the new manager was gone. Say goodbye, jerk. Nobody went crazy, but I got my boss fired. What is the silliest or most crazy thing your HOA board or neighbors have ever done? Part 4. I, 25M, live in the cottage that belonged to my family and was given to me. The cottage is right on the water, facing a medium-sized lake. Since my great-grandfather bought it, it's been in my family for many generations and has now been passed down to me. There are some people I've known since childhood who no longer live in my neighborhood. The homes that my neighbors used to live in have been torn down and replaced with homes that are more designer. When these homes were built, they brought new neighbors and an HOA that I'm not part of. My problems began with Sophie, F50 to 60, my next-door neighbor, overfishing. Sophie came up to me on my beach one day after I'd been canoe fishing. She asked if it was okay to fish in the lake, and I told her it was, as long as she paid the $25 license fee every year. I told them I had to leave because I had caught some fish and was ready to start preparing them for dinner since it was getting late. I hadn't heard from her in over 2 weeks after we talked. This time I didn't meet her in person. Instead, we talked through a letter. She told me in this letter that fishing is dangerous for the environment and that I should stop. I decided it wasn't worth my time to respond, so I just threw it in the trash and ignored her. The last time I saw them was 2 days ago when I had friends over. In the afternoon, a friend and I went back to the house for more beers. We heard a knock at the door while we were getting our drinks. Sophia was at the door when I answered, and she had another letter for me. She told them before she gave them the letter that she had tried to be polite, but now she had enough and had a letter from the HOA. I was a little drunk at the time, so I laughed and told her she was stupid for thinking the HOA could do anything before shutting the door on her. My neighborhood has an HOA, and our house is the only one that isn't part of the HOA. The leaders of the HOA have been bothering us nonstop for about 10 years, to the point where I tried to get a restraining order but failed. I just got new neighbors who are also new members of the HOA. Right away, I found out that the new neighbor was joking with the HOA leader on social media about putting spiders in our house. I got rid of my old ADT cameras this year and replaced them with Ring and Arlo cameras. The spotlight on the Ring is a soft yellow light that turns on when motion is detected. When the Arlo spotlight is a brighter yellow, it's also very small and turns on when motion is detected. They turn on for less than a minute when something moves. I put the two cameras on the trees at the end of my driveway so that they could see in both directions. My home is on a private road that goes through my wooded property. The HOA has the right to use my land as a right-of-way. It's clear that the HOA doesn't like cameras during the day. They stare at them and talk about how crazy they are. And now, my new neighbor is also freaking out about my lights at night. When there's motion, the lights turn on, but only from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Almost every night from 10 to 11:30 p.m., my neighbor walks by my house without a flashlight. Seems like the neighbor's harassing me because every night when they walk by, they flash and point at my cameras. The HOA has done several illegal things to me, so I need cameras to keep myself safe and to build a case against them for harassment in the future. I feel my lights are actually nice because they're motion activated. The property by the lake that I own, 25M, was legally given to me by my parents. It's been 6 years since I moved here, and I've had several good and one bad neighbor. My only neighbor who's ever caused me trouble is Mariette, who lives right next door. She moved in early this summer while the old house on her property was being torn down and rebuilt. The first thing that made me mad at her was that she used my wood stove and fireplaces. As the weather has gotten cooler, I've been using them every day. The only ways to heat my house are through the wood stove and the fireplace, so I'll keep them going all the time from fall to spring to keep my place warm. My family never added anything nicer to the house because it was only used for weekend trips and we wouldn't leave it empty in the winter. When I moved in, my parents wanted to add oil heating, but I said no because I thought it'd be a waste of money and I didn't mind cutting logs. 5 days ago, my neighbor, Mariette, came up to me after getting my shipment of logs for the fall. When she asked for my parents, I told her that they didn't live here and that I was the owner. Before I left, she didn't believe me and told me I was too young to own a home. Later that same day, I heard a knock on the door and thought it was my girlfriend. I opened it and said, "Hey, sweet cheeks," as I always do. It wasn't her, though. It was Mariette again, so I quickly said sorry and asked what she wanted. She wanted to talk to my parents again, and this time they told her in a more serious voice that I was the homeowner. This time, she finally got it. She told me that using wood-burning fireplaces inside and outside is against HOA rules. I replied that even though the house looks brand new, I'm not part of the group and that the town does allow fireplaces and burning yard waste. She then asked me why I needed them since they were bad for the environment. I told them that even though the outside of the house looks brand new, it's been there since 1930 and still has a wood stove and a fireplace for heat. She told me she would be back with an inspector because she still doesn't believe me. Once more, she came yesterday with someone else who said they were an HOA inspector. They tried to talk about my fireplaces, but I told them I wasn't part of their group and cut them off. Then he tried to say something false by saying that the HOA runs all the homes in the area. I told him right away that he was lying and that he was either stupid or lazy to not know that I wasn't with them. We talked back and forth one more time before I told them to stop bothering me and leave. If you want to watch the part 3, click the link here. Very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many, many thanks for your support.